So now it's
See that, God, what's his name?
understood.
The guy from Egon and Ghostbusters.
Okay.
Who's that? He was in Caddyshack. Not Caddyshack. Stripes opposite Bill Murray.
He said that he would be here.
Bill Murray just passed away today. 69. 60.
Shake all that.
Nice looking lady right here. Or this one right here. Thank you. She kind of reached for it, and she's the mayor, so I don't want to make the mayor mad. No. Thank you. Yes, please.
Chief of police here.
I don't see it.
Good, how are you? Young man? Yes.
So I heard these city council meetings are pretty rowdy sometimes. They get interesting. Kind of a drama, but might like interesting.
Better hold on to it, okay?
Hey, you know what? I'm just going to eat it.
Thank you.
I saw your mail, but I didn't see anything else. I don't know. It should be on my desk.
My famous notebook.
Does she?
Oh, yeah. Short it by the end of the next.
Is it recharging the batteries or just regular
No,
batteries?
it's just regular, but it won't last if I don't take it apart. By the next week, so I just take it.
Sure.
Yes, I mean, this, I have this if you need more, but we have to save money, so we have to.
Do you know what I did with the chambers?
Okay.
So I would lose it.
Lost.
We'll call the meeting to order at 6:01 of the City of Atwater City Council Fire Protection District, successor agency to the Atwater Redevelopment Agency, February 24th, 2014. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Jeff Favero. Please remain standing for the invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening with a humble spirit, and open hands, and an open heart, and an open mind. Father, that you are a good and gracious Lord, that if we come before you, you said you would honor anything that we asked of you. And so this evening, Lord, we call upon you to send upon our city the spirit of cooperation. Send your spirit to be with us, to give us wisdom. And Lord, we're just so thankful for the many blessings that we have. We're thankful for our city council. We're thankful for all of our first responders. We're thankful for all the employees that work to make our community better. And most of all, Lord, we're thankful for all the citizens and the cooperation that we have in our community. Lord, we thank you for our Atwater water polo team. and how you've poured out your blessing upon them to lead them to a championship. Lord, we ask that you would continue to build in these young men's lives a spirit of leadership and cooperation and sportsmanship, so that in their actions they will bring glory and praise and honor to you. And Lord, we ask that you would be with us, be with our state, especially in this time of need when we need water. Keep us mindful that when we pray to you, you answer our prayers. And Lord, most of all, we just thank you for the gift of freedom in this great country that we have. And we give you glory and praise for that. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Hit the floor. And my eyes closed that long. Noted.
I'd like to welcome you all to our city council meeting. We have a number of guests this evening, and we'd like to thank them very much for taking time out of their day to come and join us. We're here to honor some very outstanding people, and so we just like to thank you all for coming. Roll call.
Bergman,
Here.
Mooneyham,
Here.
Jeff Rivero,
Here.
Joe Rivero,
Here.
Fall.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Approval of the agenda is posted or amended. I'm pulling item number 10 from the agenda until further notice. Is there any other council persons who wish to pull an item? 10. Pulled. Is there any other items that wish, Mr. Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Mooneyham, seconded by Councilman Bergman. Is there any other discussion? Call for the question.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mayor or city attorney report out of closed session. No reportable items were taken, and staff was given direction. Presentations. First of all, we'll start with the Cups and Fire for Kids. This is a wonderful, wonderful program that we have going on in our community, and this is sponsored by our CAL FIRE, police persons, fire persons, and our citizens. And what these young people and old people and all of our community do, and people outside our community, is just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And our city manager, chief of police, happens to be one of the major people behind it, and also his administrative assistant has its major part of this. But we are here today to honor our wonderful senior chaplain, Larry Lee, for all of the work that he has done. And so we'd like to have him come forward. We have a number of other people, such as Susie Rusinelli, who's a real spearheaded of this. And so I think, Chief, did we not serve over 600 Atwater families? Is that correct? Or am I wrong?
It was 2,850 kids. We had 585 applications this year.
Isn't that wonderful? And so these are our people, and they come and they fill, I mean, we have a process. So these are really people in need. So, and that's what our community is all about, is helping each other. And that's how we survive, and that's how we will continue. With that, I would like to have Larry Lee come forward, and I would like to have Councilman Jeff Rivero.
Green light means go. All right, just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Larry. There was a lot of times that I went shopping into Walmart during the Christmas season, and I saw him there working hard, getting volunteers to work, and by the end of Christmas season, this guy looked like he'd been through a full season of the NFL. He was pretty well torn up, and I just wanted to tell you thank you. At my school, I think we have almost double digits of kids who live in foster homes. And I made a comment in class one time about Santa Claus, and one of my students says, I've never heard of Santa Claus. I know Santa Claus never visited my house. I went from foster home to foster home. So it's extremely important that we have organizations like yourself that give things to kids, especially ones that are disadvantaged in a hard economic situation. So on behalf of anyone that is going through a hard time, and I know my students, there's a few of them that live in Atwater, we just want to tell you thank you for your efforts, because I know there have been a lot of people that didn't have a Christmas gift, but you were there to answer the bell, so thank you. Thank you.
The green light's still on. You know, it's been my pleasure for about the last 15 or 16 years to be involved in a city which I've come to love. When I retired from Southern California, I'd been coming up here since the 40s with my wife, and I always thought I'd like to live in Atwater. And I'm sure glad I made that decision. But birth certificates and all that, I see people out here in the audience that help me with Cops for Kids, and that means more to me than anything. And each year we continue to grow and grow. When I first started, we had about 8 people helping us. This year we had over 50 people. And you know what? I never had one person say they couldn't help. That makes me feel great to do that for our city. And thank you very much.
On behalf of the city and on behalf of the citizens, and Larry, I hope you have your charts all ready for the coming year, because 2014 is here, and we'll get started, I think, in November or October. So anyway, it's an ongoing thing. In fact, we have a meeting coming up as soon as Susie recovers and all. And Susie Rizzanelli, you know, Susie was a person who was over here at Rizzanelli's Pizza Parlor, and then they retired, and she is still in Merced, but her heart is still in Atwater. So she has been a real backbone of our program, helped us with getting money and people. When Susie calls you, you cannot say no. There's just no, that's not in her vocabulary. So we really want to honor her, and in fact, she's waiting for me to call so we can start meeting again. So Larry, and thank your wife and everyone, well done. We can't thank you enough for all you've given to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, let us come forward, and I think this is our Atwater High School water polo team, and I think they might have taken the sections or some little thing like that, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, Mr. Swenson, would you please come forward? And where's the second Mr. Swenson? And where is the principal, Mr. Peterson? Would you come on up? You're not getting away. Oh, good, okay. Yeah, come on up. And Coach, do you know these young people? Could you call them off by name? I bet you between the two of you, you could. We could start with this young man on the end over here.
I thought maybe these guys all might want to come up and introduce themselves to the audience. What do you think about that?
So you mean, Mr. Swenson, that you cannot name each one of these young people?
Yeah.
Mr. Swenson.
That means come on up.
Come on up, gentlemen.
Yeah, we can, but we're...
And is your wife here tonight?
My wife? No.
Yes, your wife, dear.
I'm just a stand-in.
She's, yes. Yes.
Driving within the speed limit
Let's
as
move
quickly
on
as...
down. The Swensons are educators, and his wife happens to be, I think, a kindergarten teacher at Bellevue. And here comes another Swenson, and he is an educator. Come on up, right here. You can stand next to Mr. Rivero. This is another Swenson. Mr. Swenson, tell us what you teach.
I'm a math teacher, and I also run a program called Talent Vision. We broadcast live sporting events, and we kind of expanded it to graduations, talent shows, and stuff like that. It's a really cool program to get the kids involved.
Good. And Mr. Swenson, you are also in charge of Interact, I hope?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Charge of Interact, too. I don't know if I do anything else that I've forgotten about, but
Yes.
yeah.
If you're your father's son, you do anything that anybody asks
That's right.
you to do, yes. This young man and I started teaching a number of years ago. Yes. I welcomed him to Atwater High School, and it's been the best asset and best thing I've done is to have him as part of our.
You said young man?
So, do you want to say a little bit about this group, or do we want to introduce them, sir, or what?
Yes, I'll call the name.
Mr. Jeff Rivero, how do you want to do this, since Jeff was his wonderful idea to have these young people? And you must tell us what they've earned, because it's a little bit more than just, I think this is about the second time in the history of school, or am I wrong on that? You had one.
You're right.
And then you had one.
Yeah, I played for
Oh, you're right,
this
you played
one,
for your
so,
dad. So tell them what they won first.
You have the memory.
Well,
You have the perspective on it.
I've been at Atwater High since 1979, and we've
You didn't have to mention that.
won a couple of championships, but this is only the second team that's ever been undefeated league champions. They went on to play in the section tournament and made it into the top 8 teams. We've only had about 6 teams do that in the history of the school. So this is an extraordinary group of young men. And the other part of it is they're not only really, really good athletes, but they're really, really fine young men. They're very committed to their athletics. They're committed to their school. If you look into what they do, they're committed to their community. And as an athletic director and as the assistant coach, we're very sad to see a lot of these seniors go, all the seniors, but these guys go because they've been such a great asset to our school and our community at Atwater High. So we really appreciate everything that you've done, guys.
Yeah, I just want to talk real quick. The thing I liked most about this team as I was reflecting back was that it was truly the epitome of a team. We didn't really have one. We had multiple guys that stood out throughout the season, and they kind of did their specialty. They did that really well. We had Corbett and Hans kind of lock down the defense for us, and I don't remember us ever having a scoring tandem like Josh and Ben. If one wasn't scoring, the other one was assisting, and vice versa. We had other guys come off the bench. We have a big group of seniors that we're going to have to replace. But yeah, so really the true epitome of a true team. And we really have 1 or 2 guys. We had 6, 7 guys in the water that really kind of nailed it.
David.
You can't forget the principal, Mr.
I'm learning.
They talked about the players, but we all know that the great teams have great chemistry, and it's not just the players, it's the coaches. And with Roddy's years of experience and David's aggression and passion for the sport, they were able to meld this team into something special that not only our school was proud of, but our whole community. And they are correct. They are great guys. They're givers, not only to the community, but to each other. So it's a great year.
Do we want to pass it down and introduce them, sir, or how do you wish to do it?
Dave, why don't you
Yeah, I'll introduce them. Okay. First one's Josh Heller. Next one, Corbett McDaniel. Ben Peterson.
Oh, I wonder if this young man might be the son of
Hans van Orverdam. No resemblance to anybody. Zach Carroll, another senior, did everything for us. Austin Connor, is Austin here? Austin's a junior, so we'll be looking forward to having Austin back next year. Devin Durant, another junior that we are looking forward to having back. Jordan Esparza, senior, he texted me he was sick, but definitely he was one of our starters and didn't play water polo last year, but came back this year and really contributed for us. Logan Garrison, senior. Nathan Monier, he's a junior. Mitchell Moreda, senior. There's that. Brody Patterson, junior. Cameron Smelser. We got Cameron kind of late, just with, yeah. Cameron's been with us as a team manager for a while and had a couple medical procedures that he was able to convince a doctor to clear him for. So we were really happy to get him in the water. It's fun to see the guys kind of rally around him when he was actually able to get in and compete. But I think even if he hadn't been able to compete with us, he was definitely still part of the team and part of the family. Mario Solis is not here. He's a junior, and we need him back next year for sure. And then Tim Vazani, junior. Another junior that we're excited to have back next year.
I thought it was important that the city of Atwater tell you, gentlemen, congratulations for all your hard work, dedication, principal, coaches, players, thank you very much. I know you do a fantastic job of going out and representing the city of Atwater, and the city council wants to congratulate you on your victory and also wish you good luck on your future.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We appreciate all of you coming, taking time out of your busy schedule, and if you would like to, you may walk right out the door, or you may have a seat, whichever way you want to do. But I just want to say congratulations, because I've been around Atwater High School for a long, long time, and this is a historic event. And isn't it kind of neat to have a father-son do the job? I mean, that's history in itself. That could be a story, maybe. Thank you again for coming. We really appreciate it, gentlemen. Keep up the good work. And thank you, Principal Peterson, for your outstanding job at Atwater High School. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it.
Presentation of theirs.
What a wonderful group of young people. It just makes you feel so proud that that's going to be our leaders in the coming future leaders, and wow. I just want to introduce a couple young people who are very proud. Superintendent Heller is in the back row, and I think one of the young men up here was his son, one of the captains, and I think that gray-haired marvel in the back there, that is our city treasurer. I think that one young man was also his grandson. So you guys,
Number 6 in the state.
sixth in the state. That is wonderful. Which college is he a senior or junior?
Senior.
Senior. So he should have some college. And then this young man back here, while we're talking, he has a granddaughter at Sonoma State, or was, and she's one of the leading golfers, and has been a 4-year ride at Sonoma State, if I remember correctly. So we really appreciate it, and thank you for taking the time to come and recognize them. And I want to especially thanks Councilman Jeff Rivero for setting that up. Great job, well done. Okay, moving on. Okay, comments from the public. At this time, any person may come forward and comment on any item that is not on the agenda. Please state your name and address for the record. More, I'm sorry, what? Do you have any more of the agenda? Which agendas? Just the regular ones? Okay. Do we have any more regular agendas? I think there's no more in the back. I think our high school people borrowed them for their civics class. Maybe you could share, you have to think about their civics class. Mr. Bliss once proved they were here. Okay. You have action cannot be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and placed on a future agenda. To comment on an item that's on the agenda, please wait until that item is read and then come up and stand behind where Mr. Wallace is standing, and then I will know that you wish to be recognized. You have a maximum of 3 minutes, and state your name and address, and Mr. Wallace.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of things I want to bring up. I'm currently at a crossroads. I have 2 items. Oh, Madam Mayor, Councilman, City Manager, City Clerk, City Attorney. Who'd I miss?
You're taking up your 3 minutes.
I know. I got it timed.
Moving down.
Okay, I have 2 items to discuss tonight. I volunteered to write and typeset the utility newsletter. The reason for doing this was to offer information to the citizens of Atwater instead of the same thing every month. Working with graphics in business, I personally had the experience to do this along with the help of my wife as a proofreader. Noting that the chamber only offered out-of-date items on the phone and no place to call, the local Winton Times printed only things after they happened. The newsletter gave a way to print it ahead of time so the people in Atwater could plan on events and be aware of what's going on at the city at no cost. I do not know the circulation of the Merced Sun-Star, Atwater Signal, or the Atwater Winton Times, and have been told that over 3,000 of the newsletters are mailed out. The item that I received can only be about Atwater, something to do with Atwater for Atwater. It cannot be political or of religious nature. The city manager receives his copy on the newsletter on the 1st of the month for anything that he feels needs correcting or changing. I expected the city staff, the people involved in the city business, to give me information on what is going on in the city from their areas so the word would get out. This did not happen. This month is what kind of really irritated me. This month, the water rates went up again and will continue for the next 4 years as per council vote last year to avoid bankruptcy. I do write the utility newsletter. As in most instances, many people forget, and it comes as a shock, and forget the reasons why the rates went up. Causes the phone to ring a lot. Sending a short paragraph to me 2 newsletters ago would have saved a lot of chatter. No one contacted me, and there are so many items that comes from a closed city on information, but saying they are doing the best they can. There are over 2,000 rentals that do not get the newsletter. The landlords do. Secondly, the Committee on Measure 8. No one has contacted me to say anything about what they are doing, calling meetings the next week or 2, so information cannot get out to the public because I work ahead of time. That is so wrong. Why are the people that push for this committee defending the committee in the newspaper? There is some real questions as to being responsible to the citizens of Atwater. And for not using the newsletter, I think that's a crying shame. In closing, I want to thank those in the city that have given me material for the newsletter. They knew who they are, and so the ones that have not given me items. As one person told me, I don't want to be bothered with this, I was told.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace, and thank you for
3 minutes.
your, I know, right on the dot. You couldn't miss, that was good. Good job. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council members, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Atwater. Jim Price, 3467 Village Woods. Came to my attention late this afternoon that Paul Creighton, who has been working as the interim Public Works Director, has tendered his resignation for personal reasons and the like. I just want to say that in the short time that Paul has been working with the City of Atwater, his knowledge and his actions towards the betterment of the city have not gone unnoticed. One in particular that has been kind of a source of irritation with me was out on Winton Way between Atwater Boulevard down to around the Catholic Church. With respect to the center divide lines and that type of thing. And Paul, in his first week, went out there and addressed that and got that center line and the dividing lines between the lanes painted. And for that, it seems like a small thing, but it was a big deal. So I want to pass my personal thanks to Paul and hope that all of his endeavors are good. On another matter, with respect to the drought that we're involved in today, the Forestry Service, as anyone who was around last summer, has set a reload facility at Castle. This year we're supposed to have 3 DC-10s, 1 additional on top of the 2 they had already. We're also supposed to have possibilities of the Air Force coming from Channel Islands with their MAF system for firefighting from C-130s, and a helicopter standby location also. The Forestry Service is already preparing, as we were seeing earlier today, their reload facility, which should be a reminder to all of us that the hills are extremely dry right now. So when anyone is in any of the mountain areas or the foothills, please make sure that you don't park your hot exhausted car on dry grass and loose twigs and that type of thing, campfires and that type of thing. I can't imagine anybody burning a campfire up there right now, but it's extremely dry, and the Forestry Service will most likely be in place early. They're supposed to be scheduled for 1 June, but indications are that it could be as early as late April or early May. So please watch what you're doing when you're up in the hills and all that, so we don't have another repeat rim fire. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward and speak? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, and that's consent calendar. Notice to the public, background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar. These items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item, that item may be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Council persons, or is there any person who wishes to pull an item for separate action? Seeing none, I'll ask the public if they wish to comment on any item that is on the consent calendar. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Bergman,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Joe Rivero. Is there any further discussion? Call for the question.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 5, Treasurer's Report for the month of December 2013 and January 2014. City Treasurer Heller.
President, good evening, Mayor and Councilman. Before you, you have 2 months.
Well, I like the balance of the 1231, Ms. City Treasurer. Looks like we aren't down. 6 million, 6 million. Not too bad, huh?
It's coming back.
Coming back. City Manager Petro?
Jim, we did authorize the last payment for CAL FIRE today, correct?
Yes, we're paying 12/13, the last payment.
That's the last payment. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Jeff Rivero?
Yes, I was going to ask Mr. Heller, when is our next payment for our bond for wastewater treatment plant?
April 24th,
And we are online to get that?
online.
What date did you say, sir? I missed it.
I think it's April 24th,
April
April 25th.
24th?
It has to be there by the 1st of May.
Thank you.
And Mr. City Treasurer, all of our bonds are up to date with debt service payment. Is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions of the City Treasurer? Yes, Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On item 4090, the 781,000 of cash debits, what exactly is that? I just see the infusion there. Where did that come from? What is that?
Which one?
On 4090, CFD number 1 trust, where the beginning balance was 27,000 in the red, and now we have 781,000.
You know? Property tax payment.
Okay, and thank you. And one more, the general fund, I see that it's all looking much better, but my concern is from the start, the general fund, I see it's still losing some money, so.
Yeah, we're working on that today with the Audit and Finance Committee. That was our big discussion. Bill will explain it to you. He has drafts for you.
Okay, and I see that's going to come later, I suppose, so I'll wait to see that then. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the City Treasurer? Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham.
I'll make a motion to approve treasurer's reports for the months of December 2013 and January 2014 as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham, seconded by Councilman Joe Rivero. Is there any further discussion? Call for the question.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Fall,
Yes.
motion carries.
I'd just like to have the city treasurer please extend our thanks to your staff for Ms. Dominguez and all of her group, all of the people, and Mr. Zanoni and everybody that's working on putting the treasurers and keeping our finances up. It's been a real job, and they've been working very well together, and we are making progress. It's slow, but we're getting there. And so that's the positiveness of it. So we do want to thank everybody, but I know it takes a lot of effort, and sometimes we forget the little people, but it's the little people who make things go for us. So we really want to thank them very much for that. Okay, we go down to item number 6, public hearings. We have 4 of them today. Item 6, waiving the first reading and introducing the ordinance number CS 949, amending Chapter 3.45 of the Atwater Municipal Code relating to public safety transactions and use tax pertaining to Citizens Oversight Committee. That would be City Manager Petro and City Attorney Tupstra. City Manager
I'll
Petro.
turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor, and members of the council. The conforming amendments to the municipal code that were discussed at the last meeting pertaining to adding 2 members to the Oversight Committee, redefining a quorum consistent with that, and redefining or defining for the first time within the ordinance the term official to allow members of an existing boards and commissions to serve on the Oversight Committee. All of those conforming amendments are in your packet and in the proposed ordinance, which staff is recommending for waiving of first reading and introduction. And I would be available to answer any questions about the text changes.
Okay, do we have any questions of the city attorney before we open up the public hearing? Seeing none, I will open up the public hearing. Whoops, pardon me. Before I do that, Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question for the city attorney. Mr. Terpstra, how many hours did you devote to this agenda item?
That's a really good question.
Ballpark?
Probably 10.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other thing before I open up the public hearing? Okay, we'll open up the public hearing. Now is the time the people may come forward and speak for or against this item. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes in which to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jim Price, again, 3467 Village Woods. My understanding is that the interpretation for city official is, as was stated in a previous city council meeting. I want to let this issue die just like everybody else, so I'll just make my last, best, and final comments to it. That being that, again, I believe that an oath of office means just that. It's an oath of office. And as is described for the city of Atwater, an official and an employee take an oath of office. So to me, that makes him representative of the city of Atwater. With respect to the Planning Commission, there are several things with that. There's the oath of office, of course. There's a Form 700 that is financial disclosure. They are authorized a salary, although it is well known amongst the members and others that that has been waived by them. However, it is still allocated for them should they choose to take it. There's also human resource training, same as which the City Council would take. And to me, when you add all those up, a planning commissioner is indeed a city official, and maybe more so than a transportation or a Parks and Rec commissioner, but nonetheless an official just the same. So I want to, just, state that again for the record, and also state that with your interpretation being that of basically a volunteer status in some respects, the people that are on these commissions will give up their right to immunity from prosecution should there be some type of a legal issue that would involve them personally. So I think that's a precedence that's going to be set here for all commissioners, and not just those that would be subject to the Oversight Committee. Immunity from prosecution is a big deal. So I think that's something that you should consider as you go through this, and I thank you.
Thank you. So anyone else who wishes to come forward to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the dais. Is there any further discussion on this item? If not, I will entertain a motion to move this item on. Council, what happened to that? Anyway, we're going to go with Councilman Bergman, followed by Councilman Joe Rivero, followed by Councilman Mooneyham, and I broke the machine. Councilman Bergman.
Thank you, Mayor. You're a little tough on those buttons. I'd like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation as presented.
Moved by Mr. Bergman. To approve staff's motion. Then Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a question for our city attorney. Now, something was brought up right here about the losing their immunity to prosecution. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, this is the first I've heard that point raised. in any meeting on this item, and I was attempting to follow the logic behind the argument, but I don't follow it. In my opinion, there is nothing that changes measurably in terms of immunity from prosecution or lack thereof as a result of taking on the status. We've redefined the term official for purposes of the ordinance. That's all we need to do, in my opinion, and there's nothing implicated in terms of immunity one way or the other. Having said that, I'm only 50 years old and I can always learn new things. So between now and the time that this comes back for second reading, I will look into that issue to see if there's any merit to it one way or the other. And if there is, I'll come back and advise the council before you take final action on this item, because as you know, this is an ordinance that requires 2 meetings for adoption. And so we can certainly look at that issue between meetings as needed.
Okay, thank you.
And you don't have a second to the motion, by the way.
No, we do not.
So you need to get a second.
And I think I have a second right over there in the form of my mayor pro tem.
I will second the motion, Mayor. However, I would like to just point out that already our city attorney has said that he spent probably around 10 hours, which equates to several $1,000s on this. I don't even want to go into the staff time that's been exhausted on this matter. It really is embarrassing to me to sit up here and have to define the term official. I'm hoping that the parties responsible for pushing this cease this and put it behind them. We can go on with real business. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we have any further discussion? Councilman Jeff Rivero.
I was going to ask Mr. Terpstra, with the changing of the official, then we shouldn't have an issue with this again. Is that correct?
Well, folks can always make an issue out of things. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the things I
That's
learned in
true.
law school is anybody can sue anybody for anything. But
you
I
feel a
will
little
say that
comfortable?
this certainly ratchets it down and in my mind resolves the issue.
'Cause I'll be honest with you, I really don't feel like changing what the people voted on, but right now we need to focus on getting Measure H on the right
Going.
track and moving forward. And people are going to say what they're going to say, but if the council's done their due diligence, looked into things, made it correct, to tell you the truth, the city of Atwater's, the graffiti, we just had a really good article about that. We've had police officers going out there doing some really good stories, and instead of people understanding and knowing that, they're talking about Measure H. And I don't think that's what Measure H should be. Measure H is about the police officers. I heard a story that one of our police officers, who was basically coughing up his lungs because of a flu, didn't call in sick, came to work because he didn't want to let his partner down, because he didn't want only one police officer being on our streets. We need to forget all of this circus that's going on, fix it, move forward, and that's why I'm going to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that we need to consider this as public safety, and that means all aspects of public safety. That's why I live in this community, is because of public safety. Oh, man, it's neat when you have to call the fire department and they're here within a minute, or the EMTs or whatever. So that's why we all got together to pass Measure H, was to ensure our safety. So with that, I'm going to call for the question.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Joe Rivero,
I'm
It's
sorry,
probably
I
late
didn't-
on my thing. I will vote yes to move it on to the second reading, but I want to hear also from the city attorney to see if there is credibility to that as well, because I don't want to just go in blindly if you miss that, so.
Right, well,
Okay.
well, that's one of the nice, I apologize for not recognizing you.
Thank you. I'll vote yes for that reason and come back.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
I'm going to vote yes, and I also want to thank the chief for our last meeting for giving us a timeline so that citizens know that it's looking between the months of April and July that we'll have 2 new officers on our street because of Measure H, and I think that's the thing we should focus on, so my vote's yes.
Fall,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, moving down to our second public hearing, waiving the first reading and introducing ordinance number CS 950, approving zoning ordinance text amendment number 14-1 relating to building heights. Community Development Director McBride.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you know, we've been discussing this topic for some time with the council. You'd asked for the commission to work on it, which they did. The Plan Commission has made a recommendation in support of the ordinance that you see tonight. That action was taken on February 12, 2014. The ordinance as it's presented has, it's formatted in legislative format, so obviously you have new sections that are bold and underlined to show that there can be additions, and I'm not sure that we have any deletions, but if there are, they'd be through strike-through. There might be a few in here. Essentially, the ordinance that you have tonight would allow for a new process to be in place where the City Council would have authority to allow buildings above the current building height. It doesn't change the current restrictions. It just allows that you have the authority with the recommendation from the fire chief, given the recommendation to allow for a building higher than 35 feet or 2.5 stories. Most of the sections here, they all pertain to commercial, industrial, planned development, zones. There's not proposed changes in here that affect residential zones, so it's for the other types of uses that we're focusing on. I'd be more than happy to answer questions that the council may have tonight.
Is there any questions of the Community Development Director before we open up the public hearing? Seeing none, I will open up the public hearing. Now is the time for persons to come forward and speak, either for or against this item. Please come to the to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Linda Dash, City of Atwater, unpaid planning commissioner. I just wanted to speak in favor of this. We did have this come before us at our last meeting and had some excellent information presented to us from Mr. McBride, and did find out that if there's anything that would come into a city that might require a waiver, that would go to the fire chief first. So that was just, I think, one of the things that we were very concerned about as far as the height of the building. And is that about it? Yeah. So I think we all were kind of wondering at first, but then we ended up on a positive note. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak on this item, either for or against? Seeing none, we will then close the public hearing, bring it back to the dais, and is there any further discussion or questions of Mr. McBride? Councilman Jeff Favero?
I was going to ask if it's possible to have it instead of go to the fire chief if it comes to the city council. So it's a recommendation from the fire chief and then diverts to the city council?
Yes, make a recommendation for approval to the city council. You have authority to approve or deny it.
Right, thank you.
He does not, yes.
But you say that it automatically goes to the fire chief and then it comes to us?
Well, in all practical manners, Mayor, you're going to have like a site and architectural
Right.
plan process that's going to go for a staff review, which will include the fire chief and the building official. It's going to have to go to the planning commission for their review.
Right.
And then what we're envisioning is that somewhere in this process, because it's going to be a taller structure,
Right.
it's going to have to come with a recommendation either for or against from your chief, and the city council has to make that.
The main thing is everybody is involved and everybody puts their signature on it, so everybody's responsible for it.
That's
We just don't get a quick move over and then, oh, it's all right, and then move it back, and then nobody takes credit one way or the other till it starts. Councilman Joe Rivero.
Yes, I just had a question. If the fire chief does not give his recommendation, is it then they're dead, or do they still have opportunity to come to the council?
No, it's up to you. It's up to the city
So it's
council.
still, I just want to make sure that
It's-
whoever's presenting some business that might have something to say about it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion. Councilman Bergman?
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve staff's recommendation as presented.
Okay. Councilman Bergman moves
Second.
to approve the, as presented, seconded by Councilman Mooneyham. Do we have any further discussion? Call for the question.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, third public hearing. Waiving, item number 8, waiving the first reading and introducing ordinance number CS 951, amending Chapter 2.32 of the Municipal Code relating to Atwater Planning and Zoning Commission. The City Attorney Terpstra and City Manager Petro.
Well, once again, the staff report is introduced into the record. There are 3 basic provisions here, one of which delegates minor functions to the planning director. The second is to specify in the ordinance that meetings may be canceled when there is no business for the commission to conduct. And the third, which needs to be, there's a sentence that needs to be added, if you could, at the end of section 2.32.040 under meetings, right after the last sentence and before the ordinance references, this is the sentence that needs to be added, and it's actually discussed at length in the staff report, and the specific language that we're going to add is in the staff report specifically. It says, "The form of minutes required for planning and zoning commission meetings shall be the same as those provided to other boards and commissions in the city, including the city council." It's the last sentence of the staff report. It needed to be at the end of section 040, and I think I may have transmitted the wrong version of this to the city clerk initially. This is a change that is consistent with the discussion at the last meeting, as well as is consistent with the staff report. And so with that addition, it is offered for your first reading and introduction.
Do we have any, Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
Thank you, Mayor. Question for the city attorney. Can you go into detail on what the legal ramifications are for having a different type of minutes for this individual commission?
One of the main objectives here is to achieve consistency. As you know, the city attorney's office is often called upon to defend actions taken by multiple layered bodies of the city, including the Planning Commission and City Council. When you're in litigation, one of the key constraints that you have is that you're limited to the record of proceedings that was before the body. And if the form of the minutes that is in front of the court is different from Planning Commission to Council, that causes problems, because the court wants to understand the analytic path that you took from getting from evidence to decision. And the concern that we have is that if you have more detailed minutes from the planning level, then why don't you have them at the council level? So we're saying here that there should be uniformity among the form of the minutes that are offered for each of the bodies. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Also, City Attorney Terpstra, they can review the entire meeting that we tape everything. So if they're concerned about how they come across or what they was not in, they can review the entire meeting through the record.
Right. By way of example, I'm involved in litigation right now involving the city of Modesto in a planning and zoning matter where the minutes are going to come into play very heavily in that decision. And when there is litigation, the city does retain the tapes, the audio and video tapes of the meetings. And when there's litigation, you're going to want to know not just what was said, but how it was said and who said it. And what you usually do there is you have a transcript prepared of the entire hearing. So in my view, there is no need for the detailed minutes that we offer from the Planning Commission meetings. It's nice to have, I imagine, but it's more important to have consistency and to retain the tape so that if there is litigation, you can prepare a word-for-word transcript.
Okay. Is there any other questions of the city attorney before we open up the public hearing? Now is the time in which I will open up the public hearing. The public may come forward and speak either for or against this item. Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes in which to discuss your feelings. Item number 8. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the dais. I'll entertain any more questions. Mr. Councilman Joe Rivero.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's my understanding that cities are different, that they each have different policies and the length of time in which they maintain the tapes or films. Do we have anything, any policy or procedure right now currently in which we hold the tapes for any set length of time?
It would most likely be in your records retention schedule, which I believe the council would have adopted however long ago by ordinance. Now, with land use matters, it goes even beyond the records retention policy because there are specific, usually short, thank goodness, statutes of limitation that govern land use decisions. And so, it's always been our policy, and I know Scott's policy, to retain all of the documents and the transcripts as they're prepared, if they're prepared, and the tapes of meetings involving planning and zoning matters for at least the length of that statute of limitations, which is usually less than 180 days.
Okay. And can I ask Gina, who I'm not sure if you're the one that takes care of those, some of the tapes, or do you know about when the last time we purged?
I think it's been a long time since we've done any purging. In fact, we're getting ready to do a major purge project in a couple months.
Do you happen to know the length of time that we have a policy for the city in which we retain these records?
Not offhand, but I do believe it is part of our retention schedule that has been adopted, and we're also looking at that for updating it as well.
Can we bring, Gina, excuse me, Councilman Joe Rivero, could we bring a copy of that back to the council for the next meeting so that we could review that and see, and maybe we need to update it or whatever? I'm sorry for interrupting, Councilman Joe Rivero. Go ahead.
No problem. No, that was my point too, because I believe that's the reason we went to those specific form of note taking. It was more specific in detail for any citizens who wanted to go back and look to see exactly what took place in the Planning Commission, and so that's why I wanted to know how long if we were to revert back, how long we'd maintain those tapes. All right.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other questions on this item? I'll entertain a motion for approval or disapproval of this item. Or as amended. Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve staff's recommendation as amended, although I do want to inject that in the past, this particular commission has requested opportunities for training, and I would ask staff that in the event that there is an agenda item and that a meeting is conducted, that there is some aspect of training injected into that. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mooneyham, and we have a second by Bergman with as amended. Do we have any further discussion? Call for the question.
Bergman?
Yes.
Jeff Rivero?
I believe it's very important to be available as possible for our businesses and anything business that needs to be conducted inside of our town, so I think it's important to have meetings twice a month, so I'll vote no.
Mooneyham?
Yes.
Joe Rivero?
No.
Fall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 9. Item number 9, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Home and Cal Home Buyers Assistant Program, Participation Guidelines, Housing Rehabilitation Program, Participation Guidelines, and CDBG Program, Income Reuse Plan, Community Development Director McBride. This is also a public hearing.
Thank you again. Good evening, Mayor and council members. From time to time, we are asked to take a look at our guidelines, our consolidated guidelines for several programs. Currently, the city is not eligible for these programs. Our housing element's not in compliance, and we've been in that situation for several years. We do, however, have a loan pool of many grants that we've been awarded, and the responsibility continues on indefinitely to those loans are repaid to the city. Most of those loans are deferred for up to 45 years, so essentially we're going to have program responsibilities for nearly ever. Having said that, we are working on updated guidelines that need to be considered by you. We have a call with the state scheduled tomorrow. They're going to be giving us some guidance on the draft that we have. We were hoping to get it done before the meeting, but it's going to take place afterwards. And so given the timing of it, we're asking to have this item continue to the next meeting so we can get the input from the state and then bring it back for your consideration.
So we will open up the public hearing and have any person who wishes to speak on this item come forward at this time, and then we will, after that, we'll close the public hearing and then continue it on to March 10th, 2014. Is that correct, City Attorney? Correct? Okay. With that, I'll open up the public hearing. Is there any person in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on item 9? No. Okay, is there any person? Mr. Heller, are you coming forward, or are you just saying hello and goodbye? Okay, well, you have a nice evening, Mr. Heller. And with that, I will close the public hearing, and we will continue this public hearing to March 10th, 2014. Okay, next item on the agenda is the city manager report. We've pulled item number 10, so we're now going to item number 11, and that's a verbal report. What? Oh, you want a motion, huh? Okay. So, we're back to item number 9, and item number 9 needs a motion to continue this public hearing until the regular city council meeting of March 10th. Then I have Councilman Bergman.
It's already been moved on the other side, so I'll second it.
Was it, who moved it first? Joe? Who? Joe, thank you, I'm sorry. My hearing is not the greatest.
There you go.
Oh, come on, guys. I'm almost there. Don't you go down. Okay. Let's see. We have Joe Rivero making the motion to move it till March 10th. We have a second by Mr. Bergman. Jeff Rivero, did you have something to say? So we got it all straight now? We're all ready to go, City Attorney? Call for the question.
Joe Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Fall.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, City Manager's report. We've pulled item 10, so we're going to move to item number 11. And after you make your report, we're going to have a little recess.
Well, it's going to be short and
Make it
maybe
quick.
not sweet. This was an item that was asked by Councilman Joe Rivero. He wanted a verbal report regarding potential grants for street improvements. Well, with the shocking resignation of our interim Public Works Director, we in fact did have a plan in place. Unfortunately, he resigned today at 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't have a copy of that plan. I will tell you that we searched for several grants. We didn't find anything at this point in time, but according to our finance consultant, we still have less than $1 million in the gas tax. That's what we've been using to start, fixing up some of the streets, and we'll continue to do that. And as soon as I have a better report, Joe, I'll give it to you.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions of the city manager? Okay, with that, we'll have our financial consultant get ready for his mid-year budget review, and we'll have a short recess.
Oh, is that it?
Thank you.
Not there yet, Scott.
I got to talk to you about Atwater and Ferrari. These guys are just kind of killing me already. I mean, I'm working with the group we want to hire for the EIR. You know, it's like he's so antagonistic and he's so stubborn on things. I mean, we all look at their applications that submitted. They're really old. You know how it is. If it's not current, it's going to be a potential issue. So they're trying to address it. I don't know. I think the problem is they spent a lot of money earlier on drawings and things, and I'm not sure what they have left that they can hit John Ferrari for. Like that's where we really need the money.
Or renderings and pictures.
Right. I know. Exactly. He's got to bill for his time. He's got to look like he's producing something. So they've all been doing that, and now here we are. I mean, they get this very narrow scope that, oh, well, the Ferrari land is the project. It's like, no, the project is bigger. It's all the areas you're going to annex. And every time the consultants try to mention that to him, he just kind of... It's nothing that you and I can do about it. It is what it is. But, I mean, later on, once in a while. We haven't done one in a while. But we are going to bring forward the EIR consultant pretty soon. I should have the contract maybe this week.
Okay.
Yeah. We're pretty close. I don't know if you ever worked with them, EMC. Have you worked with the EMC client? They were kind of...
There's all different players.
We had three. I liked one, Dave liked one. We picked the one that was... But I told him I want you to pick it because I don't want to be responsible if they have issues that he doesn't like. This is who he picked. So that was my plan. I can live with any of them, really. Yeah, Michael Groves and Ron Sissom. Someone that can really ride the project guys. And so far they've been pretty good. I told them in our one meeting, it's going to be good cop, bad cop. You guys have to be the bad cop. This will be good.
I just want to, about 15. She wanted me to just tell you
Let's resume the meeting. We have a very important part of our meeting coming up, and that's the City of Atwater fiscal year 2013-14 mid-year budget review. Let's see, am I missing? Yep. I'm missing a couple of people. One person. First of all, I'd like to introduce you again to Mr. Zanoni, who is our financial consultant, and he's been the young man who's been helping us to hold it together fiscally, and we cannot thank he or his staff enough, and I really want to thank the city manager and his staff, Gina Del Real, and her staff, Public Works, everybody. We've all jumped in there and the citizens of Atwater. You need to be congratulated for what you've done to help us. So with that, Mr. Zanoni, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll probably have questions as we go along.
Very good.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, what I'd like to do this evening is give you an update on the city's budget. We're calling it the mid-year budget review. The information that you have in your packet is actually as of February 14th, so it's a little bit more than mid-year, but it's as current information as we have. What we're going to do is I'm going to give you a quick overview of the budget, general fund and other city funds. We've got a list of proposed adjustments to revenues and expenditures for you to consider. And then finally, we've drafted 2 fiscal policies that I would ask that you consider adopting tonight as we begin the process for preparing the next fiscal year budget. So the 13-14 budget was adopted by the City Council on June 14th of last year. The total budget for all city funds was $39.1 million. When you adopted the budget, we made a commitment that we would provide you with regular updates on the status of that budget. The first quarter report through the end of September was presented to the Audit and Finance Committee in October and to the City Council in November. The mid-year report that you have tonight went to the Finance Committee on January 27th, and you obviously have it tonight. One change to what the Audit and Finance Committee saw on January 27th is I updated the year-to-date figures they saw as of December 31st. What's in the packet that you have tonight is through February 14th. Start with the general fund. This chart is one that you've seen before, but it shows you where general fund revenue comes from. Almost half, 46% of general fund revenue comes from property tax and sales tax. And this chart is a history of general fund revenue going back to 2005. You can see that general fund revenue was around $11 to $12 million a year, and then peaked in 08-09 at $14 million, and then dropped when the economic recession started and hit a low of $9.2 million in fiscal year 11-12. Came back up a little bit in 12-13, and this fiscal year we're projecting general fund revenue of $12 million. So we're not seeing huge increases, but we have seen it bottom out and slight recovery in some areas. As far as expenditures, Atwater, like most public agencies, is labor intensive, especially in the general fund. And in the general fund in Atwater, about 2/3 of the budget is public safety for police and fire. This is the same chart that I had for revenue. This shows expenditures. Expenditures for the city's general fund peaked at $14.4 million in 09-10. As revenues dropped the next several years, City Council took action to reduce expenditures, and those expenditures dropped down to $11.4 million last fiscal year, up slightly this year. So as our revenues dropped, expenditures came down also. Unfortunately, they did not come down fast enough or deep enough to keep up with the drop in revenues. This chart shows the general fund operating position, which is revenues less expenditures. And for the last 4 years, 9-10 through 12-13, the general fund operated in a deficit position, which means it spent more than it took in. And when that happens, reserves were drawn down and depleted, and in fact went into a negative position.
Oh, pardon me. Councilman Joe Rivera?
Yes, could you go back to the last chart? It's that, no, the one you were on, yeah, that one right there. No, I just wanted to clarify, because a lot of people asked me this question and said, what happened in 2005? And I wasn't here, but if you look back, there's a huge drop right there. And part of it, the council passed, they were doing a lot of spending, salaries, but one of the big things that hit us, or hit the city hard, was some contracts that, and so they also asked, well, how come you came up there in that 1 year? Well, I was there then, and that was one of the suggestions of the then city manager, where he sold a piece of property back to the city and put that back in the budget. And so that's why there is nothing wonderful that happened there. That was just a selling of some property back to yourself and made the books look somewhat better. So, but where it all started, that's something that we still need to be watching. So that's just why I want to clarify that.
I think, too, that you have to think that our revenue needs to meet our expenses, and I think that's the big thing that we've been not neglecting, is making sure that our funds in water, sewer, and garbage, the revenue equals the expenses. And 16 years of not making any kind of an increase in revenue is going to catch up with us, and I think it did in that particular area, plus basically almost depression throughout the United States. So I think we have to think about the fact that it's easier to take a 3.6 increase in revenue in each of those funds versus kind of putting it off, because it'll finally catch up with you.
That's right, and at your next meeting, you will receive the audited financial statements for last fiscal year. The Audit and Finance Committee this afternoon reviewed a draft of that report. And what that will show is the funds in the city that are in a negative position. So for certain funds, and the general fund being one of them, we need to not only have revenues equal expenditures, but we need to have revenues exceeding expenditures, and by a significant amount for a period of time to get the reserves back out of negative.
Excuse me, Councilman Joe Rivera again?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, because you mentioned the water, sewer, and such, but this is the general fund, and this one right here is something that's needed some attention for a long time. It's coming up, but I wanted to separate that from the water, sewer, and everything else.
Okay.
Yes.
The general fund.
You're correct.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, this is information through 2 weeks or a week ago. For the general fund, the budget that was adopted in June of last year provided projected revenue of $11.9 million. As of February 14th, we had received $5.9 million, or almost half of that revenue. The budget anticipated expenditures of $11.9 million as of February 14th, and February 14th is about 62% of the way through the year. So revenues are just about half. The reason that they're not a little bit higher is because we received one property tax payment. We get another big one in May. So that's why the revenues are not quite up to 60% yet. As of right now, the general fund has taken in $5.9 million and spent $7.1, and that's just a function, we believe, of the timing of when revenue comes in. As far as the revenue by source, the biggest individual sources of revenue to the general fund are property tax and sales tax. Property taxes is about 63%. Sales tax, there's a 2-month lag when we receive sales tax, so we're always 2 months behind, which is why that's showing less than half. The other area that looks like it's doing very well is licenses and permits, and that's one of the lines that we're going to ask you to adjust tonight as our projection, because we've seen an increase in building permit activity and revenue that comes into the general fund. So overall, we've received $5.9 million, or about 49% of general fund revenue. The departmental expenditures, right now, all of the departments are on it, so now going forward.
It's on the money.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Zanoni?
So, good news is the budget's balanced. Bad news, and it's just something that everybody needs to keep in mind as we go forward, is we're balanced this year, but when you get the audit in 2 weeks, what you will see is that the general fund has ended the year, last year, with a negative cash balance of $3.1 million and a negative fund balance of $4.2 million. So you've stopped the bleeding. Things have bottomed out, but because we went for 4 years basically drawing down reserves, the challenge going forward is going to be not only to keep the budget balanced, but to generate additional revenue, or ideally, with the magnitude of those dollars, one-time revenue that comes in that can go into the general fund to bring that down. But that will be one of the challenges with your budget discussions over the next couple years, is that deficit has to go away.
Could I ask you, can you give me a definition of cash balance and fund balance?
Cash balance is money in the bank, or in this case, money that's not in the bank. It's as if that were your checking account, you would be overdrawn by $3.1 million and not being able to write checks anymore or use your debit card anymore, because the city uses fund accounting. All of our funds are in the same bank account, and so money is moved between. But the general fund portion of that has a negative cash balance of $3.1 million. Fund balance is cash plus everything that's owed to the general fund and everything that the general fund owes. So if the city were to close today and collect everything that's owed and pay all of the bills that are outstanding, it would be $4.2 million. The biggest difference in there is the CAL FIRE contract. As of June 30th, we hadn't paid CAL FIRE, but we recorded it as a liability or payables on the books. So it's cash, money in the bank, or money that's not in the bank, and really the big picture is the $4.2 million. That's the one that we want to get rid of.
Thank you.
Proposed, whoops, didn't work right there. Proposed adjustments to the other funds. We've got, city received a grant from Walmart for $2,000 for a police bicycle patrol. We're asking that be put in a police grant fund as revenue and expenditures. The building fund, the city received $17,919 from the federal government. The fire department actually did as reimbursement for strike team. They'd like to put that money to use making repairs to the fire station. I think they were looking at building windows and fencing. And Public Works is receiving about $3,000 from the sale of scrap metal, and that would go into that fund as well. And they would like to use that money for improvements at the corporation yard. The Community Facilities District Fund, that's just correcting what we had budgeted for debt service. That was my mistake. I budgeted the wrong amount between principal and interest. The AR8 Redevelopment Successor Agency Fund, it's repaying $30,000 of a loan to the general fund and budgeting for administrative costs. We've got we're requesting that we budget money in the wastewater fund that was omitted from the budget for capital expenses. The former redevelopment agency bond fund that's there's two items in that, money from the 2007 bond proceeds for Atwater Road, Winton Way, the downtown pedestrian safety and lighting project. So funding for those two projects from redevelopment bond proceeds. The maintenance district is engineering costs. And then the capital improvement fund, that would be appropriating Proposition 1B money that needs to be spent by the end of this fiscal year or returned, and that is $285,000. And the last item is an interfund transfer. It's within the redevelopment, former redevelopment agency and the successor agency funds, and it's just getting debt service money where it needs to be to pay debt service. So those are the adjustments that are proposed to the budget.
Okay, do we have any questions of Mr. Zanoni? Seeing none, we'll proceed on.
The next item is fiscal policies. We don't have fiscal policies documented in Atwater at this point, so what we've prepared are two policies to start with, which I think are key as the city moves forward and begins recovering from what's happened the last couple of years. First policy is a general fund reserve policy. Even though the general fund is negative, the goal is to make it not negative. And that's going to take time. It's going to take probably at least several years to bring the general fund back into a positive cash and fund balance position. So what we're proposing is a policy to rebuild general fund reserves in an orderly manner with a goal of having that at a minimum of 15% of general fund operating costs. So right now, 15% of the current general fund budget would be about $1.8 million. So the general fund balance is negative about $4.2 million. Ideally, it should be at least at a positive $1.8 million. We're proposing a policy that the council would adopt, knowing that you're not there yet, but with that policy, that's something to strive for, and we'll keep bringing it back and reminding you that that's where we want to end up. Second policy is an interfund loan policy. Oops. We have, over the last several years, moved a lot of money between funds. Council, I don't believe, was formally involved in that process. We would like to change that. Put together a policy for short-term advances and loans. Anything that's repaid within 90 days after the end of the fiscal year would be approved by the city manager. Anything that would extend beyond 90 days after the end of the fiscal year would have to come to the city council. There's some interfund loans that are in the normal course of business, have to occur, for example, grants. A lot of grants require that the city expends the funds and then requests reimbursement. Those funds go negative and then come, the general fund goes through a dry period, typically between when it gets its last property tax payment and December when it gets its next large influx of cash, and so the general fund could possibly go negative in that 6-month period, at least until we get reserves built back up. But the goal of this would be to have interfund loans that are documented, either approved by the city manager, or if they're long-term, extending beyond 90 days beyond the end of a fiscal year, city council would formally approve them. The documentation would require identifying the purpose of the loan, an interest rate if there is going to be interest charged on the loan, repayment terms, and most importantly, identifying anticipated source of funding, so that if a fund is going to go negative, it's going to take some thought as far as how that loan is going to be repaid, same as you would do if you were to borrow money in your own personal situation. And finally, that any interfund loans would be reviewed on an annual basis by the City Council, probably as part of the budget process. That's what I had. The recommended action is that the City Council consider adopting 2 resolutions, one resolution amending the budget, and a second resolution approving 2 fiscal policies, one for general fund reserves and one for interfund loans. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Questions of Mr. Zanoni?
Straightforward.
On behalf of the citizens and the council and everything, again, Mr. Zanoni, I want you to thank your staff and everybody, and I want to thank Audit and Finance Committee, and that's Mr. Jeff Rivero and Mr. Bergman for, then the Audit and Finance Committee meets once a month on 4 o'clock on the fourth Monday, is that correct, sir? Okay, so, right? Okay, and please come if you can. It's here, it starts at 4 o'clock, because this is a real important time, and these policies that we're talking about, they're going to be the structure of what we want to put our finances on. We kind of went down a little bit, so now we're correcting and righting the ship, and we want to thank everybody for that. Mr. Jeff Rivero.
I'm going to ask, is Municipal Services researching our business license and utility fees at this time?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't hear that.
Municipal Services, are they?
Community services?
Yes.
Community services are doing our sales tax first, correct?
They're doing our sales tax. We actually met this afternoon on business licenses. We have business license, the unpaid business license list down to, we think, about $80,000. But some of that is our estimate as far as what people know. So they're making phone calls this week. We're going to send out one more letter next Monday to everyone that's left on the list. It won't be the nicest letter because they've been contacted already several times. Give them a week, and at that point, those that don't respond, they'll either go to collection or to Muni Services. And then at the same point, we'll do utility billing.
And that's down from $500,000, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
And the Muni Services, they basically just go back and find out what the city's missed, right? So we've done the best job we could at finding it, and then they'll go ahead and dig a little bit further. And
yes, they do it. They charge a percentage of what they collect. So we wanted to make sure that we had collected everything we could, at least the big dollars, before we turned it over to them.
We didn't want to expend any more money than we had to, so we were cleaning up our mess first, and then we'll turn the rest over
These
to
are,
them.
for business licenses, that's money straight into the general fund. So we wanted to make sure we got everything that we could before we turned it over to them.
So you would estimate maybe in a month or two that they'll go in full strength on the business license?
Yes, I would hope in about 2 weeks.
And then what
3
about
weeks.
utility fees?
Then what we'll talk to them about utilities at the same time.
I know a couple of years back, they researched and found out a city, and don't quote me on the number, but I think it was 100,000 plus that another city had gotten sales tax for. And I know they went and found that, and I know there's a fee for it, but at the on the other hand, had they not done the services, we never would have even known about that. So,
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, did you have a question? Mr. Councilman Bergman?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to go ahead and move to approve staff's recommendation as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Bergman, Councilman Bergman, seconded by Councilman Jeff Rivero. Is there any further discussion? Call for the question.
Bergman,
Yes.
Jeff Rivero,
Yes.
Mooneyham,
Yes.
Joe Rivera,
Mr. Joe Rivera?
No.
What was the?
No.
No? Okay. No
Paul?
for Mr. Yes.
Motion
Again,
carries.
Mr. Zanoni, thank you. Job well done. You really took a very complex thing and made it so that it's understandable. And I think we as a council have to, and that's what we're doing. is we're developing policies, we're working towards making sure that the next councils that come after us have a fiscal policy to follow, and that we take some responsibility in knowing what's going on in our fiscal action of the city. We kind of, I think, became a little too dependent upon the city manager, not that that's any problem there, but I think we as council have to also make sure we know what's going on and take some of the heat, because it's not fun when you have to raise things, but, you know, it does catch up with us, and so we do want to thank everybody, but I know Mr. Jeff Rivera was one of those that was really adamant about the loans and where the money was coming from, who was getting it, and this kind of thing. We were just playing a shell game, and it caught up with us. So I do thank everybody for all of their support. Okay, next item.
Mayor, if
Yes.
you could, before you go on, I'm going to have to leave the meeting at this point. I have an appointment in Los Angeles in the morning. I need to drive most of the rest of the way. Fortunately, you're not completely empty-handed. My associate, Rosie Rappel, is in the audience and certainly can take any notes and write down any questions that might arise in the next two agenda items. So
May
if
I
I may,
ask,
I'm going to leave.
City Attorney Terpstra, may I ask, which vehicle are we driving? Are we
Not-
driving
not-
the electrical
Not
Wonder?
the electric car. No, I would make it about as far as what, Sanger or something.
Yeah, I think
and
so,
then That
sir.
would be the end of the
Yes.
night, which would be about my bedtime, but that
Yes.
would be.
Well, you have a safe trip.
very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you.
And we welcome Rosie.
And she
Just
can-
like any organization, there's the brains of the outfit sitting in the back. And Rosie, would you please come to the dais and welcome to the city of Atwater. This young lady needs a round of applause because she just passed her bar. The city attorney is getting his directions. We are so fortunate to have such a capable group of individuals from Mr. Terpstra's law office helping us out. Councilman Jeff Rivera.
I was just going to wish Mr. Terpstra a safe trip.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, reports and presentations, Mr. Lieutenant Joseph. I just want to compliment Lieutenant Joseph. He's kind of had a busy week in his organization, and so I just would like to send my thanks to everyone for their outstanding service to our community.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the council, you guys were provided the updated or revised city municipal code for 8.38 for the graffiti. Hope you guys had a time to read it, and if you have any questions, let me know if you have any changes. The changes were done specifically if you notice, majority was changed, but it's just added on there to make things a lot easier for us and our code enforcement officer and our police officers to enforce a lot of these laws. We have an ongoing problem with the graffiti, and as you know, we've been, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Craig Mooneyham has been after it quite a bit also. So we've been, using our sources, our law enforcement sources, where Chief Petro has allowed us to put a team together, which I did, and it's been very successful, and hopefully we can be able to continue to utilize those sources. But this will help us to fix and clean up the problem, I think, the best we can. And again, it's whatever you guys want me to do, and I'll go. This is just a suggestion.
Okay, any comments from our council persons? Councilman Jeff Rivera?
I was going to ask, Chief, is there something in here to help out senior citizens that may have a problem with painting out or getting rid of the graffiti on their houses? I know there's a few people out in the community that would have an issue with this or a hard time. Is there some type of service that we can provide?
I don't believe there is in the ordinance per se, but I'm in the process of meeting with a couple civic organizations to help us out in that case. We have the president of Castle Atwater Kiwanis here, and Rotary has already said that they would be glad to help out, if we had that. So the ordinance is really got a little bit more teeth in it than the other one had, and that's what we need to enforce that. But you understand that we want voluntary compliance. That's what our code enforcement officer stresses. So if there's somebody out there that can't afford to do the graffiti at any point in time, I'm sure that we can find a civic organization or another organization to help out.
Like I said before, one day I was cruising down Somerset, and they were whitewashing a fence, and the guy waved me down, and he basically introduced me to his mom, and there's no way physically she could do that, so he had to travel a couple hours to come, and she was really upset about somebody jacks up her fence, and then she's required to take care of it without the ability to do it. So I'm hoping that we have some type of a system to fall back on for those type of people that can call someone and ask for assistance, and we can provide it. Maybe not as a city, but as a nonprofit group. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have any recommendations? I'd like to move then that we move with this, and thank Lieutenant Joseph for all of his, and he's researched the various cities around the community so that are about like size, and so, and that we'd like to move this on to our legal people and put this into an ordinance form. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And then bring it back as a public hearing?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
so we can get this on the books?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that
That's our goal.
that's the goal, and that's my motion?
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Falls, seconded by Bergman. Do we have any questions? Call for the question.
Winningham?
I will vote yes, and I hope this is a top priority for our code enforcement.
Definitely.
Joe Rivero?
Yes.
Bergman?
Yes.
Jeff Rivero?
Yes.
Fall?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Joseph, for all of your work in putting this together. Item number 14, verbal report from our Water Restriction Conservation Intern Public Works Director, just appointed today. What is his official title? City Manager, besides a good fellow, and thank you for saving the day again. This is Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilman. Apparently, you guys received the ordinance or the muni code on the last meeting to review. I've gone through some other cities, and they're going to this declaration of emergencies over the water shortages. I have a lot of different things where we can go, odd, even days with addresses, no watering on Mondays. There's a lot of different situations that different cities are doing, depending on how you guys want to go forward with it.
I think, Mr. Shaw, you see that young man sitting right over there? That young man's name is Mr. Wallace, and he and you should get together and let this community know that we do have water ordinances, believe it or not, and we need to start enforcing them. And my understanding is that you're willing to come out and help us folks that have problems with our plumbing and our water and that kind of thing, and our sprinklers that automatically go on when they're not supposed to, and all those wonderful things like that. But I think we need to get, and maybe I'm wrong, gentlemen, and if you wish to correct me, but I think we need to start running the odd and evens, and then first of all, figure out whether we're odd or whether we're even. That's a big task in itself. And then the times that we're supposed to be running the water, and that type of thing, and then about the washing of the cars and this kind of thing. But this is we can make fun, but this is a serious, serious matter. And we need to take it on, and we need to that should be the headlines because the city of Atwater, we don't have any other source of water but well. And
That's
so when
correct,
the ground and the wells go down and the water level drops, so I think this should be something that we need to emphasize. And so I know that if you have a problem, you can give me a call, and I'll give Mr. Shaw a call, and he will get back with you. It's one thing Mr. Shaw does, is he returns telephone calls. City Manager, followed by Jeff Rivero.
It's my understanding that tomorrow the county is going to declare a state of emergency for the entire county as a drought, correct?
Yes.
Sammy, is that correct? Yes, sir. Tomorrow? So we're going to have to get on the stick here. I didn't want to be behind on the power curve on this, but I really want you to step up to the plate and get us some restrictions with your council's approval, and that we need to go into effect within the next 7 days, if not sooner.
Okay. Do a declaration of emergency and...
Yeah. Exactly. With some definite water restrictions.
Yeah,
You
definite
can drive
times.
around all hours of the night and the sprinklers are going. You know, when I'm called out in the middle of the night, I see sprinklers going all the time. So we need to let the citizens know that we are in a state of emergency effective tomorrow, but we need to jump on this as soon as you can. And I know I put a lot on you, and I appreciate everything you're doing, Brian. Thanks.
Councilman Jeff Rivera, followed by Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham.
Yeah, I would like to make a suggestion that in our newsletter, that we post what we've used over the last 3 years per month, like we're coming up on March, what we used the last 3 months, or last 3 years in March, and what our goals are. I think if we reach out to our community members and tell them that we're in a drought, and this is what our goal is, let's see if our town can reach it. I believe the most citizens inside of our city will do their best to try to get Atwater to that goal. And the second thing is that we have to be on the ball too, because I know I've received a couple phone calls about people driving by areas, especially over by Buhack High School going down Juniper, where the sprinklers were just running out in the road. They weren't working. It was just shooting water out. So if we're going to ask our citizens to be on the ball and to conserve water, then the city has to do its best. And maybe if we published a phone number in the newsletter saying if there's a city waterhead or a city issue with water, please call us so we can take care of it, because I'm pretty sure the community will help us out along with themselves, because if we can save on our electricity and pumping water and having to dig another well, then we're actually helping ourselves out, not having to go to the expense of digging a well.
Yes, if we could even dig a well.
Thank you.
And Mayor Pro Tem Mooneyham?
Thank you, Mayor. I myself have to admit I'm fairly uneducated when it comes to the various means of water conservations and water restrictions. No one will doubt that we're in extreme dire circumstance right now with the current drought. However, I would urge the council not to be knee-jerk in simply copying a neighboring community's form of conservation. I myself would like to see a little bit of empirical data that actually would state option 1, option 2, option 3, and what we could reasonably expect to conserve. Knowing full well this is going to be a long-term conservation due to the extent of the drought, and I wouldn't want us just to react for the sake of reacting in this particular case. Thank you.
Okay, so Councilman Jeff Rivera.
I was going to ask the city manager also, President Obama cut through Fresno not too long ago, I believe it was last week, and I think he made a state of emergency on the water. I don't know the exact terminology used, but I know that there's grant money out there for water conservation. Is there any way we can have our grant department check to see if there's anything the city can do, or if there's funds for, I know we need another well or two, check to see if there's a low interest or no interest loan through the water conservation that he approved, and I believe the cutoff date was March 6th or 8th, so I know
March
it's
8th.
coming up on it pretty quick.
Yep, I'll have it done tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, oops, I'm sorry, Councilman Joe Rivera?
Yes, thank you. Years ago, I don't know whether it's through a grant or whatnot, when they were putting in the water meters to the homes that were required, they were also passing out, I don't know if it came along with it, but reduced flow shower heads, and I think something for the toilets too. Do we still have those materials that we could pass out to residents?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we still have some. Okay, and then maybe in our flyer or something we
Maybe
can...
I'll get with the newsletter and we can put that in there. If they need it, they come out to Courtyard and pick them up.
That would be something good for the newsletter then, that to add to it, that we have those. And do you have many? I mean, I don't want to put it in if we only have a handful, but...
I think I still have a couple of cases.
Okay.
We could hand them out when they pay their water bill here, if we wanted to do something like that also.
Yeah.
We have a comment, Mrs. Bowling, please.
Judy Bowling, 137 Judy Drive. I was wondering, could we put a little bit of bite more to having our code enforcement officer go out 4 or 5 times, whatever it is, before somebody's cited or anything is really done about the waste of water? I mean, just in the neighborhood and where I'm seeing water running all the time in the gutters. And for the enforcement to go out, you got to go 4 or 5 times before anything happens, and it's not right. We're in a shortage, so maybe we could, while you're making these things,
Put that as a part of the draft, and, because I think that the first thing we have to do is educate people. We have to let them know that we do have a water conservation thing, and just like Mr. Wallace was saying, we have to, and that's what we do through the utility letter. So I think your comments and thoughts are good, and I think we can, just by educating and letting them know that we're noticing, and then maybe they'll take the hint.
but that's what I'm saying, is to let them know that there is a consequence. We're not going to wait 4 or 5 times. We don't have the manpower to keep doing that. And how much water shall we waste before we start penalizing somebody? When you're told, and it's in writing, they ought to get it. Thank you.
I think so. Thank you. Mr. Wallace?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a question on what Councilman Jeff Rivera said. This number, are you saying putting a number in the newsletter to call if water is running in the street? I know what you said, and I can put it very large across the top, but am I getting the right message?
Yeah, if you see a city waterhead or something, there's a city issue with the water being wasted, if you can call this number and let us know so Public Works can go out and take care of the matter.
So if somebody sees water, like somebody said, the sprinklers shooting up in the air, they can call that number, and what do they need to leave?
Just the position of what water,
Address,
if it's
street.
at Osborne Park close to the street or wherever it is, that they can, or a medium over by Juniper, if they could just give the location of where the sprinkler head is obviously broken or having issues, so that way our Public Works can go to it. Because a lot of times what happens is these sprinklers come on late at night and there's no one on, so we don't know that it's an issue. So if people see it, they can give us a call and help us out.
We're not breaking any laws by doing that, right?
Not that I'm aware of. I can check into that.
Well, he's talking just about
I know.
City of Atwater.
I know, City of Atwater, yeah.
Yeah, if citizens would give the city a call and holler and say there's an issue.
So you give me a number?
The same with the school districts, too. I think we need to get involved, the school districts need to get involved with this. And if we see that, let them know that, just, so we're all working together on these things.
Thank you. I think I
Thank
can
you.
be a big help with it.
Chief
Madam Mayor,
Pimentel.
council members, Battalion Chief Mark Pimentel for the City of Atwater, CAL FIRE. Currently, we have a new battalion chief that's working in the OES program, and he's getting the counties and the cities within Merced County together to help educate our residents around the area. I think if you guys were able to appoint somebody to tie in with him, I think that would be a great idea to get a mass information out as well, and educating the residents of the City of Atwater. Thank you very much.
Chief Pimentel, who's our young man, who's the chief in charge of this?
This would be Battalion Chief Jeremy Ron.
Oh, Mr. Ron?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I think the young man behind you is probably the young man who would be the person who would be interested in that?
And they just getting going. I just received an email today in regards to looking for representatives from around the area, so I'll pass that information on to Shaw. And then,
If you represent the City of Atwater, you will also be our representative too?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, Chief?
yes, ma'am. Definitely.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Do we have any other further questions of Mr.? So I think we need to now entertain a motion to start, what? Okay, well, I think city manager, would you like to give would you tell me, and I'll make it in a motion, whatever we need to do to get this thing moving?
Well, we want some suggestions. We picked up several suggestions up
Right.
here that we'll bring back to you.
Okay, so you're going to
at that
put this
point in
into a
time.
form of an ordinance, bring it back to us on March 10th. Tomorrow, Mr. Shaw is going to declare a state of emergency as far as the water situation goes, right?
The county's going to declare a state of emergency.
And since we're part of the county, we'll be there too.
Yes, I've already received information from Ron on the information that he's trying to gather from all the different cities.
Okay. So we'll leave this in your hands, and the city attorney's hands, and the city manager's hands to bring back some type of water conservation ordinance and program for our March 10th meeting.
As the mayor pro tem stated, we'll give you A, B, C, and D. We'll give you different
Okay.
options to choose.
Okay, so do we need a motion on that? A motion? Staff has direction, right, city attorney? The last one I did skip through was wrong, so I wanted to make sure I'm right. He has direction.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, thank you very much. And I do want to thank you again, Mr. Shaw, for taking over the reins of the Public Works Department again, and thank you. Really appreciate someone who's up to date, and knows what's happening. Okay, city council matters. We're going to start with Councilman Jeff Rivero.
I just wanted to make a comment about our U.S. Olympic team. I was very proud of them. They went and did an excellent job representing the United States, and thank Russia for allowing the security and working with other countries to keep our people safe. I know that Atwater High School had a wrestler, I believe he received the silver medal for wrestling. I think the last name was Kelly, do you remember?
Oh, sure.
So we had
Absolutely,
some
Mr. Kelly. In fact, we
representation.
have a street named after him.
So it was nice to see our athletes get back nice and safe, and appreciate their efforts. Thank you.
And I just want to tell you that one of the skiers happens to be from Patterson, California, by way of Lake Tahoe. I taught his grandfather how to swim. Okay, Councilman, Mayor Pro Tem Winningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to go ahead and echo the city manager's comments about Paul Creighton during his short time here as the interim public works director. He did a fantastic job in seeing to some of the immediate needs of the community, and whomever takes his place, I hope they continue that progress that he started. Also, on a Parks and Rec note, I believe tennis court keys for Osborne Park will be available on March 3rd for the new year. And I believe it's still less than $60. It's a great family outing. I know that I think my son might pull me out there to try and hit the ball around and embarrass myself. But also AYB and Little League have recently started. Lots of little kids running through the streets to get to park cars. Please slow down and watch out for them. I'd hate to hear any bad news regarding the children when they're out there. So that'll do it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bergman?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much to report, but kind of echo Councilman Mooneyham's comments about the kids. Weather's getting warm really quick. I've noticed in the evenings there's a lot of people out walking. Not all of them are wearing bright clothing, so when we're out at night driving, let's just be a little cautious for our pedestrians out there that may be getting a little exercise with the warm weather. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Joe Rivero?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to begin by echoing Mr. Mooneyham's sentiments about Mr. Creighton. I think he did an outstanding job with the short time he was here. There was problems he went and he worked on and he got them fixed, and so I want to thank you, Paul. I also want to announce to the parents out there that might be watching this that April 17th, the city's track meet is taking place, and so you have about a month and a half to prepare. So if you have some young athletes in your house, get them out there, start running with them. As they were saying, it's warm weather, go out, jog with your children, or ride a bike alongside of them if you can't keep up, like I would do. And anyway, and just reflecting on the Olympics, later on in May, there will be the Merced County Junior Olympics, and we've had actually some in the record books that had gone on and competed in the Olympics. And so you might want to come out to look at the Atwater City Track Meet and then go on down to the Merced County Junior Olympics. You may see some future Olympians or some future professionals, because some of those have competed. So that's all.
Thank you. That's April 17th, and that's at the Atwater's,
Atwater High.
Atwater High School. Starts at about 8 o'clock, 9?
I'm not sure the exact time, but around
Around that
approximately 8.
Thank you. Seniors, we have and citizens, we have our cleanup day, which is going to be on March 15th. And that's going to be from 7 to 2. Any large objects that you cannot get into your toter, bring them to us. We're going to be at the Courtyard again, and starts at 7, goes to 2. We take tires, we take e-waste, but you cannot bring more than 9 tires per tie. Don't ask me why, but some brilliant person in the state government that is there. And if you bring 10, you've got to turn around and go back again, so that you come back with 9. So, anyway, and so seniors, if you have objects that you cannot bring to us, you don't have a way to bring to our day, then we do have volunteers that will come out and pick them up for you, but you need to call the Sandy Rom at the community center at 357-6320, and the last day you can sign up for that is March 12th. So please, if you've got some objects and you need to have them carried away, give us a call so we can help you out. And another thing that we're having this year is Love Atwater, and that's going to be on April 5th, and that's spearheaded by John Motz and Gloria Perez. And so if you have any questions on that, you can call 357-6320. Patrick Ferretta knows about what's going on there. And so we just want to thank you again. Again, I want to thank Mr. Zanoni and everybody for the mid-year budget, and I want to thank the council for making strides towards correcting the problems and developing some policies so that we can move on. With that, the meeting is adjourned.